Hello, my name is Darren Gregory. I'm going to introduce you to FastStats. FastStats is a general purpose train of thought analysis tool with data mining capabilities, reporting and campaign management. We'll focus on the analysis and data mining for this presentation, but please contact us if you'd like to see any more of the features. Now, the view you can see in front of you is FastStats. What I'm going to do before I go into FastStats in more detail is show you the data that we're going to be working with. So this is data that I've got collected in an Excel spreadsheet. It could be coming from a database, but in this particular instance it's in Excel. I've got some people IDs, policy numbers, I've got some product information, I've got some date information, some monetary information. I've also got another tab here which are my customers. So these are the people that have the policies, and I've got some different data around them. I've got their geodemographic cluster, I've got their name and address information, their gender, income, occupation and so on. I've also got some marketing preferences. But to do any meaningful analysis on this data, that's quite difficult in Excel. So what I've done is I've loaded into FastStats. Now if I just shrink this view up for a second, you can see here I've got customers and I've got transactions, and this data mimics the data that I had in my Excel spreadsheet, but now the data is in a hierarchy, so I can very clearly see that I have individuals with multiple transactions, or at least they're a links table as opposed to two separate spreadsheets. So the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of investigation. So I've not seen this data set before, so I'm going to open up a simple selection, and this shows me all of the different products that I've got in my database. I'm going to select all of those products and do a quick count, and this shows me that I've got a little over 2 million policies. But what I'm actually interested in is a count of the number of customers that I've got. So I'm going to change the focus of my selection and rerun it, and you can see there that's returned me just over 1 million customers. So I already know that I've got a ratio of about 2 to 1 customer to policy. And what FastStats is going to allow me to do through the toolbox here, through the capabilities of the visualization, the analysis and the modeling, is going to allow me to look at my customers in more detail and try and understand something about them. But rather than do that in abstract, I've got some scenarios I'd like to explore. So the first of those is a more general investigation of the breakdown of the products I showed you a moment ago in my selection by age. So I've got a range of products here, and I've got some segment clusters that I've based around age banding. And I can see the proportion of customers that I have for each of the policies or each of the products based on their age segment. So here I can see that my AWA product, I've got 46% of my customers in my Gen Jones age segment, compared to 76% of my 35 ups in my Vista product. And this gives me a very simple initial view of perhaps a simple breakdown of how my different products are appealing to different customer groups. And I can drag and drop onto this a range of different criteria, and I can iterate through lots of analysis this way. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually interested in this product here, because this product, I believe there may be some customers who aren't contributing enough for the wealth that they have. So their income levels may be very high, but actually they're not contributing very much into this product. And what I want to do is identify who those customers are to see if I can upsell them. So I'm going to take out that selection, and you can see here FastStats is building up the selection for me, but I've not had to do any of this coding myself at this stage. I don't have to know SQL in order to be able to drive FastStats. All I need to know is the questions that I want to ask. So I've got my selection here, and what I'd like to do is to explore the different income bands by the amount that the customers are paying into the policy. And I've done some filtering on here, and all of the templates that I'm using here are creatable very easily from the toolbox up above here. But what I've done is I've just streamlined that process for the purpose of this demonstration. But what I'm immediately drawn to is the fact that I've got a little over 1,000 customers who have got very high income levels but are actually paying very little into their policy. So these are people that I really want to invite to contribute more. So a very simple upsell campaign. So I'm going to take that group and I'm going to create a new selection from them. Again, starting to get a little bit more complex, but you'll have seen by now that I don't have to worry about the complexity of the selection. I'm just interacting with the data using very simple visualization tools. And then finally, in order to get this off to my call center, I'm going to drop on top of this what we call a data grid, and that data grid is going to give me all of the customer details. So it gives me their URN, it tells me which campaign that I'm running. I've got a priority on here, so I'll give this to my call center so they know which order I want the customers to be called in. And I've generated that from within FastStats as well. I've got the name and address, or the name and the email address rather, telephone number, income levels, and I've got the preference data, so the call center will know whether or not they can actually telephone these people, or perhaps whether we need to send them an email initially. And then very simply I export this, and now I've got my file ready to send off to my call center. So within a few minutes I've been able to create a very simple investigation of my data and identify a group of customers who I want to upsell on a particular product. Now, one thing we noticed before was that there's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio of policy to individual. And what I'd like to do is investigate that in a bit more detail. So here I have a basket analysis, and what this basket analysis is going to do is it's going to show what product overlap I've got. So how many customers have got more than one product and what those products are in terms of the number of them. So I can see here that I've got 110,000 customers who've got both my Futura and IWA product. Down to the other end of the scale, I've got 258 who've got both Global Choice and ITA. Now, my eyes are drawn to the Futura and Vista customers because there's only 2,000 overlap there, but I believe this is a product combination that works particularly well, so I was hoping to see that there was more of those customers. So I'm going to create a campaign that's going to target people who have already got Vista to try and cross-promote them to Futura. But before I can do that, I need to understand how many records I've got available to me, so effectively what is the size of my potential audience. So I'm going to draw a Venn diagram to do that, and the Venn diagram I'm just going to put on a simple Venn that's going to look at the crossover between Futura and Vista. So I'll drag product type on again, and this time I'm going to select Vista. Okay, so now when I execute my Venn diagram, I can see there the 2016, which I already knew about, but I can now see that I've got 68,000 people who've only got Vista, and this is my target audience. These are the people that I want to go out to cross-promote them to Futura. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the people who have already done what I'm trying to get the rest of the group to do, i.e. they've already bought Futura, and I'm going to create a new selection from that, and on top of that selection I'm going to drop a decision tree. And what this decision tree is going to show me is it's going to show me, when I build it, the key characteristics of the customers who have bought both products when I compare them purely to Vista only customers. Okay, so that's finished. I'm just going to shrink that back down and blow it up again so you can see the full view of the decision tree. So FastStats gives this to me in quite a good way. It's quite intuitive to use, so I've got cold spots where I've got very unproductive groups, so the characteristics of this group here, they're unlikely to be interested in Futura. Over onto the other side of the scale where I've got very hot spots, so these are customers that are very likely on my Vista base to be interested in Futura, and the pinks and the light blues are in between. So very simple coding system and colour scheme that I can interrogate. Now the first thing I'm drawn to is the fact that my first split in my decision tree is based on gender. So had I just done some simple analysis and looked at the likelihood that females or men are more likely to be interested in my Futura product, I'd have probably discounted this whole female branch, because you can see here this is in blue and that means that the female customers are very unlikely in the whole to be interested in Futura. But when I explore further, perhaps if I do a break by income, by socio-segment and so on, I arrive at these groups down here which are actually very productive. So I click on this group here, I can see that I've got a base of 758 customers, and out of that 161 have already cross-sold over to Futura. So in the simple gain calculation, I can see that they're 7 times more likely than were I to do a random selection. FastStats also gives me a number of other measures that I can use and ways to visualize this. So I've got a simple gains chart. I can look at my data rather than perhaps in a cubic tree. I can look in organic tree, and this gives me a much more fluid and visual way of understanding what's going on. I'll go back to my box tree, because what I want to do is I want to take this group here and extract them to create a selection, as you can see here. But I'm now going to put on top of that my output format. So this is slightly different to the one that I used for upsell. It's got the campaign code again. It doesn't have a priority because I need to call all of these people. And again, I've got my mailing preferences, or my communication preferences. So people that don't want to be called, we're going to email those. So again, I'll hit that and send that off to my call center. And now the campaign is ready to go. So what we've done over the last 11 minutes or so is look at some of the components that FastStats gives us. So the initial way that we were able to do some simple visualization of the data within our database, to then further mine down into that to identify a target group of customers that I'm interested in upselling to then export that group of customers for campaign purposes. And FastStats gives us a number of different campaign tools. This is a very simple one. There are others that allows us to organize our campaigns in a much more structured way. I then had a look at the natural crossover that I already have in my database. I explored the size of the audience that I had for a particular scenario, and then finally I built a propensity model, or a decision tree, that allowed me to zoom in on the customers that were most likely to be interested in my Futura product on the basis that they already had Vista. And then finally I was able to pull out those details and again send them off to my call center. So over the last 12 minutes we've done quite a fast view of FastStats, but hopefully this will give you a taste for what FastStats allows us to do. And I thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.